Well, welcome to the third of four installments in our discussion with the Missouri Department of Conservation as we continue to talk about wildlife management and health. And joining us today on this Google Hangout is Jason Sumners from the Missouri Department of Conservation. Native Missourian, got a degree from the University of Missouri, extensive background in white-tailed deer research and management. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Jason, thank you for joining us here in this third segment.
Oh, happy to be here, Bill. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
All right, great. You know, the last two Google Hangouts that we've had, Jason, we've learned about the history, we've learned about the heritage of conservation in Missouri, constitutional authority, citizen involvement. Can you talk about how that works with managing Missouri's wildlife?
Yeah, the Conservation Commission has tremendous responsibility that's been entrusted it by the citizens of the state of Missouri. And, it's made up of four commissioners from two different political parties appointed to 6-year terms, and those individuals are volunteers. And so I think they take a tremendous amount of responsibility and understanding that the people of the state of Missouri entrusted them to manage the fish, forest, and wildlife resources of the state. And so when we talk about how management works, the commission really has the authority to make rules and regulations regarding hunting seasons or other management aspects. So they're important in many ways.
Who owns wildlife, and how does the department make decisions regarding their management?
That's a really good question. The who owns wildlife really dates back to Roman times. We have what we call the public trust doctrine, where resources or wildlife resources are not owned by any individual, but actually owned by the state. And so they're owned by the people of the state of Missouri and entrusted in the government to manage those appropriately. And we really know that dates back a long time. It's shaped our North American model of wildlife conservation. And really shapes many of the regulations that we have today.
Can you go back to the North American model and maybe explain what that is?
Yeah, so the North American model of wildlife conservation really is founded on this idea, this public trust doctrine, that the government is entrusted with managing the resources. And as I mentioned earlier, it really dates back to Roman times when they were deciding who owned what, property, land, the natural resources. And it was really believed that these wildlife were owned by the people, not by individuals. And we can look at the Magna Carta. We can look at a number of political or court cases that were held in the early 1800s in North America that again reassured this idea. And it's really founded on 7 really distinct principles. One of them that the resources are entrusted to the public, that no one owns them, and that we use scientific management really to manage those populations. Another important part of it is that we prohibit commercialization of dead wildlife. Market hunting and the sale of dead animals really is what led to the extinction or dramatic decline of a number of populations of wildlife across North America. So that's an important tenet of the North American model, that it's democratic rule, that it's managed by the people for the people, and that everyone should have some interest in the management of those species.
We're joined today by Jason Sumners of the Missouri Department of Conservation. Back in 2011, assumed the role of state deer biologist, and he joins us on this third of our original 4 series discussion and Google Hangouts with the department. How do you manage the needs of wildlife and people statewide?
Again, this idea that we, as the state agency, the Conservation Commission, the Department of Conservation, are entrusted by the people to manage these resources for them. So when we talk about, I'll use deer as a specific example, we have an overarching goal that we use science-based wildlife management to maintain biologically and socially balanced deer populations that provide recreational and hunting opportunities, but trying to minimize those risks or the damage or conflicts that may occur as a result of overabundant deer populations. So trying to strike that balance. And we do that in a number of ways. We do that by collecting biological data. We use telecheck harvest information. We use scientific research looking at survival and reproduction of animals. We use Citizen science, our bow hunters collect observation data that allows us to track abundance of white-tailed deer, of other fur bearers, raccoons, coyotes, bobcats, turkeys, those kinds of things to give us a picture of what the deer population is doing. But the other important part of this is that we do have to have a lot of citizen input and what is acceptable or socially acceptable to folks. And so we gather public input in a number of ways. You know, within the deer program, we conduct thousands of random mail surveys on an annual basis. We send out 35,000 random mail surveys to firearms deer hunters and to archery hunters following the hunting season to get their thoughts and opinions about the deer herd, to gather some information about what's going on out there. We also survey 9,000 production landowners on an annual basis so that we get some idea of the other stakeholders that deer populations impact, so that we get their input, trying to really balance what a biological deer population looks like with what's socially acceptable. And when we talk about deer management, it really is about what's socially acceptable. We could have a lot more deer in the state. It's just that we wouldn't tolerate the levels of damage that occurs, the deer vehicle collisions, the crop damage, eating everybody's hostas and roses in their yards. And so many times it's people will tell you when we have the right number of deer or too many deer, and we get a tremendous amount of public input. I think that's a big driving factor behind all resource management. Again, back to that, 1936, the people entrusted the Conservation Commission to manage those wildlife resources, and we put a tremendous amount of value in maintaining that trust, and it ensures that habitat management and our management efforts continue through time.
Jason, we talked in a couple of the other Google Hangouts about these deer open houses that have been going on across the state, and we have those on our website at MissouriNet.com and linked back to the Department of Conservation. How are those going? Can you tell us about when the next events are coming up, and then what can people do by attending those to help our deer stay healthy for future generations?
Yeah, so, as I was talking earlier about how we manage the deer population, public input is really important. Hunting is the critical way that we're able to manage the deer population. And so what we've done is drafted a whitetail deer management plan that's really intended to guide our management efforts over the next 10 years. And so we're taking that out to the public. We're trying to get some feedback. We can ask survey questions about what their attitudes are about various methods during the hunting season, about the timing of our seasons. But it's really those one-on-one dialogues that gives us a real good insight into what people's real passionate feelings and thoughts are about certain issues. And so we're taking it to the public to try to get some input on future strategies. What do they think will work? What ideas do they have that we haven't thought of? There have been several things come up as we've talked with folks that have been, hey, you know what, that's a good idea. We do need to at least consider that as an option. And so these meetings are happening across the state. We've had, I guess, 6 so far. Attendance has been well. The open house format provides the opportunity for us to disseminate information. We've got a number of handouts talking about the history of deer management in the state, hunter recruitment and retention, which is a very important issue as we try to maintain our hunting heritage looking forward. Handouts about some proposed regulation changes that we're considering. They're no way, shape, or form a done deal. We want to get some input from the public, but then it provides them some opportunity to ask questions of us. What is on their mind? What concerns them on a localized basis? We talk about deer management. It's all localized. It's what happens on your property that you hunt, what happens in your urban community if you live in one of our larger metropolitan areas. And so what do you want to do? What do you want the deer herd to look like? And so we have several more coming up. I'll be leaving here in a few hours to head down to Van Buren. We'll be meeting in Van Buren this evening. On Thursday, we'll be in West Plains, and then next week we'll be out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as well. So we still have several upcoming open houses for folks to come and share their thoughts about the deer population and allow us to provide a little bit of information about how we manage the deer herd as well. Then you had a couple more follow-ups related to that.
I wanted to talk to you about the comment cards. If people can't make it out to these events, there's comment cards, and I'll have this linked on the website with the story. But the website is mdc.mo.gov/deerhealth. Can you talk about the importance of those comment cards and why and how valuable it is to your department that people fill those out?
Yeah, so even though folks may not be able to attend, or even if they come and attend and still have questions or comments after they leave, we've put everything online. So if you go to mdc.mo.gov and put in deer open houses, it'll send you to a link that has the list of all the locations, and it has the PDFs of all the handouts that we have created and are presenting to folks at these open houses. So people have the opportunity to at least engage in that discussion. There also is the option there to provide comment on the web. And so, yeah, to this point, we've received several hundred comments via web comments from folks who aren't going to be able to attend the open houses. The other thing, we're taking comments on captive cervid regulations, and so they're on our Deer Health web page. There's the opportunity there for folks to comment on captive cervid regulations as well.
That's good stuff, and I'm trying to bring this up, and of course my computer is slow. I was going to show.
It's great when it works, but sometimes it doesn't.
I was going to show you, and it's of course I got my computer from Sanford and Son, so this has been recycled how many times? So I'm surprised I'm still on the air with you, Jason. So, anyway, it's linked at MissouriNet.com with this Google Hangout, and you can certainly check that out. And the comment cards and the open houses are very valuable. I mean, deer season, before you know it.
Oh, it will be. Deer season opens on September 15th, so we're just, two and a half months away, 3 months away, so it'll be here pretty quick. Folks will be getting ready to head out in the woods. I know, deer are in the process of having fawns. There are lots of fawns out there on the ground, and the bucks are starting to grow antlers. We've seen trail camera pictures starting to pop up, so folks are starting to think about the deer hunting season, and it's a good time to come out and come to one of the open houses, chat with us. And if you don't have the opportunity to do that, again, certainly go online and comment, because deer are important. Deer are a tremendously important resource to the state. They're important to the citizens of the state of Missouri. They, about a $1 billion economic engine in the state of Missouri. And when we break that stuff down, it ends up being $56 million worth of local and state tax revenue, associated with the economic impacts of deer. More than 500,000 deer hunters. So it's important, not only to deer management to many people, but funds a lot of other wildlife management that happens.
Very good stuff, and I found it. I finally got my computer to work. So that's what it looks like. The deer open houses, you can check it out. And again, it's linked at MissouriNet.com, but all the information that you need to get you ready for deer season. It's almost year-round. Jason Sumners, deer biologist with the Missouri Department of Conservation, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you. Great information, as always. You guys provide a great service.
Thanks, Bill. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
And thanks a lot for watching us at MissouriNet.com.